Based on my over 7 years of experience in project management, leading multi-million-dollar projects across 3 different continents, I'll be sharing 5 things I wish I knew before I started my career. Are you ready? Let's go. Hey there. Welcome back to my channel. If you're a subscriber, high five. Thank you for joining me on this learning journey. And if you're new here, hi, my name is Ogaga Johnson, and I help aspiring, emerging, and established professionals to launch and grow successful careers with project management. And on this channel, I share everything about a career in project management, including lessons from my project management career and my business. So if you're interested in learning about project management or in starting and advancing your career, then click on the subscribe button so that we can learn together. So like I said in this video, I'll be sharing 5 things I wish I knew before I started my career as a project manager. Number 1, prepare for the meeting before the meeting. So, as a project manager and a project leader, I am constantly in meetings, whether it's meetings with stakeholders, meeting with the team, or just meeting with, different partners or vendors. And one thing that has been something that, I wish I knew at the very beginning, because now that I do it, it has really changed the game and made me to be so, successful with my projects. And that thing is preparing for the meeting before the meeting. Not just preparing for the meeting. Hey, this is what I'll say. This is what the other thing I'll say. No, but like determining what the meeting outcome will be before the meeting. So here's what I do. So before every meeting, I'm like, all right, what do I want to achieve in this meeting? What do I want the outcome to be? Whether it's a decision I want to be made or some key actions that I want to ensure comes out from that meeting. So I determine these actions, right? And then I now decide, okay, if I want these actions to come out of this meeting or this decision to be made, what do I need to ensure is the agenda? Or how do I need to present the facts and the stories in the meeting? How will I steer the direction of the meeting? And I tell you that every single time I do this before my meetings, right? At the end of the meeting, when the meeting minutes come out, the actions or the decision or the outcomes from that meeting is exactly what I planned before. Now, doing this practice helps you to, preempt whether issues that will come out or preempt what people might say. And then because you're able to preempt these different things, you're able to plan accordingly for it. So that when you get to the meeting, you can easily influence and steer the meeting to go in the direction that you want. And this is so key as a project manager, because you're leading a project, you know the project, you know what decisions need to be made, you know what actions need to be done. So you need to constantly influence, whether it's your team members or your stakeholders, to go in the direction that you know will ensure that the project will be successful. Number 2, communication preferences are important. So one thing that happened in one of my projects, right? So I had a key stakeholders and I set up, this recurring monthly update meetings to tell them what's going on and, how the project is going. So after these meetings, I'll prepare the, meeting minutes, the agenda and all, and I'll send it out. And in my mind, at least the key stakeholders knew about the meeting. And even if they didn't come, they were being sent the meeting minutes. So I was just expecting them to look to the meeting minutes if they didn't come, to catch up on things that were going. And that's how we continue the project. And then towards the end of a project, like a key stakeholder, like a major stakeholder, literally was like, hey, why did this change to this? Like, I wasn't aware. And in my mind, I'm like, hey, excuse me, like, we decided about this in one of our meetings. And even if you didn't come for that meeting, hey, here are the meeting minutes, and they were sent to you. And then I became aware that this person, was not good with emails, because they have so many emails, like a key stakeholder, a top manager, director, leader within the organization. So they don't really have time for their emails. In fact, they have like an executive assistant who helps them with their emails and, ensures everything goes well. So the person was like, oh, Gaga, I would have preferred, because this is a key decision, if you had just called me, even if I was not present, and just told me. And then that was early days of my career. And then I was like, oh my God, I had neglected this key stakeholders' communication preference. And because of that, they were not really happy with my project. Now, I was able to just influence them, get their buy-in for this change that occurred, because it was already late in the project. We will almost end it so that they can, accept it at the end of the day. But I would have prevented that situation if I did not just assume that my key stakeholder was going to read their emails and see the meeting minutes. So because of that, going forward in all my projects, I always reach out to all my key stakeholders and understand what is the best way of communicating with you. Now, some people say, oh, I don't mind, send me emails. So other people say, do you know what, just send me a one-page, bullet points, boom, boom, boom. What is happening in the project? So I'm kept informed. That person say, if you send me emails, I will not read. Call me and just give me any key updates. I started doing this in all my projects, and I tell you, they have been a game changer, because it has helped me to effectively engage with my stakeholders, especially my key stakeholders, and ensure that they are in line, they are informed, and they are really, really satisfied with the project. So communication preferences are very essential, especially for your top stakeholders. Number 3, every problem has a solution. That is so key, because in project management, trust me, issues will arise, problems will come. So just understand that every problem has a solution. So do not panic. Literally, find out what the problem is, go to the root cause, find the solution, apply the solution, and check if it has worked. Period. If there's an issue, you don't have to stress. You don't have to be panicking up and down. No. 2 main methods I like using when I'm solving problems, that arise in my project is the root cause analysis and the 5 whys. The 5 whys I absolutely love. So basically, for the 5 whys, sometimes I call my team and I say, okay, so what's the issue? Oh, when the accounting ledger goes out to the SAP, what's happening is that it's creating duplicate accounts. I'm like, okay, so why would it create duplicate accounts? Okay, well, maybe SAP is seeing it as 2 entries instead of 1. Okay, so why will SAP see it as 2 entries instead of 1? Maybe the accounting rule has something that is not configured well, because it has to be, SAP sees the accounting rule and create the entries. Okay, so why will the accounting rule be wrong? You know what? Part of this project was to change some of the accounting principles. So maybe that affected the accounting rule. I said, okay, so can we go check that out? See, I've used this why, right, to get the answer. So we've gotten to the root cause of the problem and we have found the solution. And the reason why this is important is because there are sometimes, problems will arise in your project and you may feel like, there's a solution, or what's the problem here? I don't know. Let's start troubleshooting, just troubleshoot. You're spending days, months, sometimes troubleshooting, and then the project is held up, it doesn't meet the timelines, or, even runs out over budget because the problem wasn't solved. So next time you have a problem on your project, one technique I always start with is the 5 whys. And trust me, every problem has a solution. So when there's a problem, hey, okay, fine, let's try to solve it. And do not panic. Number 4, information is everywhere. So, as a project manager or you're working on a project, there might just be new things that come up, right? So it could be like you're working in a new industry you've not worked in before. It could be that your project requires you to use a new tool that you have never used before, or a new application you've never used before. Whatsoever it is, one thing that has helped me and I wish I knew early on before I started, was that information is everywhere. We're in the age where you don't necessarily need to go to the library, literally, before you can find the information. Google it, you'll find the information. Use AI, ChatGPT, you'll find the information you're looking for. One time in my project, I needed to use Visio. At that time, I'd never used Visio. I'd never even heard of Visio before. I needed to use it to create some front-end engineering diagrams, so it's easy for, anybody to be able to read what we're trying to do rather than having to go try and comprehend what AutoCAD was saying, because that will help my projects communicate what we're trying to do to various stakeholders who didn't have an engineering background. So I said, okay, I went online. How can I use Visio? Literally. And I learned how to use Visio. And I started using it to create the diagrams. And now I am like a guru with Visio. So whatever it is that you encounter on your project or something you just need to use in order to make your project more successful, don't feel like, oh, I don't know how to use it. Information is everywhere, right? Go out there and find the information. I remember, so I don't have a finance background, right? But I was working on a project that basically it was to transform the treasury operations within this organization. I do not have treasury background. So before you can transform something to make it better, you technically need to understand how it works. Then you can improve it. But you know what? I'm like, okay, fine. I don't have the knowledge, but the people that have the knowledge are the team members. So right in there. All right, give me, step by step what you do. Tell me your current as-is process. Why did you do this like that? Why did you do that like that? So with that, I was able to really understand, and then took that knowledge, went online, hey, explain this to me, explain that to me based on some of those things they were saying. And I was able to understand what the process was and actually design a more improved process that they could actually use to make themselves more efficient. Basically, now they were doing reporting manually, but with this new process, they just need to click a button and their report will be produced. Voila! That is like making it almost 100% efficient. I didn't have the treasury background, but because information is everywhere, that really, really helped me. Sometimes when you're working on a project, you could encounter a new PM tool, because in that organization, that they're in, they don't use MS Project that you're used to. They use Jira, or they use Asana, or they use MS Azure, and you've never used it before. Don't worry, don't be afraid about it. Just understand, oh, I need to use this new tool? Fine. Go out there, look for the information, look for the knowledge, and then apply it to work. So don't forget, information is everywhere. Even if you have not done it before, you can find out how. Number 5, be flexible and adaptable. This was, something I wish I had known, right? So, as a very tech PM, there are different methodologies that, I use. And when I'm using this methodology, I like to use it to cross all the T's, dot all the I's. And there was this particular software development team that I was leading, and all my days, they just didn't want to follow the process because they were already used to a particular way of working. And I was literally very hard, and I was forcing them to do exactly what I wanted to do. But really, it wasn't working for me because I was forcing them to do it, they were going on to do the work, but they were not giving me updates. So I realized that, what? Let me just ask them, how would you prefer to go about this in terms of do the work and ensure that I'm kept in the loop, I'm carried along? And they told me, yes, we're not, constantly updating the PM tool, but we don't mind meeting in our daily stand-ups, and then maybe you can help us update the PM tool. I'm like, is that it? You just don't have time to update the PM tool? I can actually do that, even if necessarily they are to update it. But as a PM, I'm there to help them remove any impediments or issues they're having. And if it's just that issue, that's not a problem. So, I just decided that works for me. I'm not going to push, hey, you have to update it, ensure your board, your Scrum board, and Kanban board is all good. There's no point. Is this how you want to work? Fine. Let's work like that. As long as I'm kept in the loop, I have the updates, I know what's happening, I can help the team. And the team, they're actually delivering working software, and that's fine. So it is so key to be adaptable and be flexible, because different people work in different ways and something just works best for them. So listen, understand, what works for them. If you go with what they want, will it be detrimental to the project? If it's no, it doesn't really matter. then yeah, go ahead and do it. Remember the key thing, tailoring. Oh, that is a game changer. Tailor the different methodologies, frameworks, or process to what works for you and the team. The key is focus on the vision and deliver the results. So be adaptable and be flexible. Okay, so these are the 5 things I wish I knew when I was starting off my career, because oh my God, they have helped me tremendously to become a better project manager and be successful in leading multi-million dollar or pounds projects across, 3 different continents: Africa, Europe, and North America. So they've really been game changers for me. And I hope that they will also be game changers for you in your project management career. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to drop it in the comment section. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, to subscribe, and to share with your friends so that they as well can learn, and we all together can grow and advance our careers. All right. So I have so many other videos on project management. Feel free to check them out. And if you do so, I'll see you in a few seconds. Bye now.